Okay, in the last video, I'm just scrolling down through here, I was looking at the boost maps and I decided that I'd get enough here if I made these changes to the axis and made these sort of changes to the main map, and there were the increases I was using. I'm not saying that these are the correct figures to use, I'm just saying that these would be worth considering and worth trying out. Now, if I come to the boost limiter, I can see that already I would not be in dire trouble, but I would be in a little bit of trouble if I tried to run this boost map, because the boost limiter would simply not allow that to occur. So it would cut back and limit me to these sorts of values. And one of the problems with that is that if my boost tried to stay too far above, or tried to stray too far above the boost limit for too long, I would probably drop into limp mode. So obviously changing these is quite important, otherwise the file will simply not run correctly. Now, as usual, what I've done is I've used a calculator here, and I could just make changes in one small area, but I'm going to make changes in a bigger area just to sort of make sure I've got all bases covered, as it were. I'll just make that one yellow so that you can see that's the area that I've changed, and all I've done is I've upped the limit by 10%. Now it might be that I need to consider that sort of variable increase in limit like I used for boost. So it might be that I need to vary this across rather than just going for 10%. I'm deliberately just going for 10% to make life nice and simple and you can see exactly what's going on, but that might not be ideal. Now if I come over here and I have a look, what has that done? Well, I'm probably covered in most of these areas without any real problem. The problem usually occurs at the high end. Now if I look back through these, there's not a lot of change going on anyway in the figures. So if you look at some of them, you've got 2272, 2382, 2382. So we're not looking at huge differences here. So, but these are the areas where we need to be looking, because we've already decided on possible boost increases here, and on this second boost map we're looking at 2419 probably as the high point, and here we've got 2420 as a limit. Now very often, and I'd have to dig through the file to find out, but very often the limit we are allowed is not 1. In other words, we've got 2419 and 2420. That's a difference of 1. The variation limit for error monitoring is usually somewhere in the region of 50 on these graphs. So this would be compared to this, and a difference of 50 would be somewhere where the cut-off point was for an error, and that would then drop us into limp mode. So it's possible that this increase here is not enough. So I must stress that it is possible this is not enough. So if you simply copy my files, you may well copy these files and then wonder why it's not working properly. These figures might need to be a little bit higher. Now I say might because it's possible we won't actually use these boost values. And if we don't use these boost values, if we stay well below them, then this limit will be okay. And there is a fairly good chance that we will be below these values. If you've looked at the EDC 15 information videos that I've made, you will know why that is, and the reason is the torque limiter is going to limit the available injection quantity, and when it does that, it may well be that we don't need this much boost. So we will see. In other words, this would be a case of loading up the file, trying it out, and if we kept dropping into limp, then we would have to say to ourselves, right, this has definitely got to be increased. The other alternative is to make the increases now. In other words, to say to yourself, well, what I'll do is I'll make a range of changes now. I'll perhaps make that one 11% instead of 10%, and I'll make this one 12% instead of 10%. And that is why this is an example. This is not a remap of a car saying here's the figures, go and use them. This is how changes could be made. It's up to you what changes you make. So these are the possible changes for a boost limiter that doesn't quite match boost but is fairly close to it. So you might want to consider making further changes than this. Now again, I really need to go back and look at the torque limit, but while I'm here it makes more sense to go straight to the single value boost limit. So I'm going to go there next, so I'll stop here.